Hello and welcome to Nex-Tech's Barbecue Pitmasters. I'm Kelly Wertz for Legs Up BBQ here in Great Bend, Kansas. We're going to show you how to do pork butts today. We're going to start with some preparation on them, just like you'd buy them out of the package, out of the store. How to trim them up a little bit, seasoning, and then we'll show you what to do to get them cooked properly. We'll show you how to foil them about halfway through the cooking process to make a little bit better product out of them. How to check and make sure they're done before you get them pulled out of the cooker, and talk about how to pull them, what to do after that to get them ready to serve for your crowd. So let's go ahead and get started. We'll get a pork butt out of the refrigerator. All right. Let me get some gloves on. If you don't have any vinyl gloves or latex gloves or whatever, go get some. It makes life a whole lot easier for you. Makes cleanup a lot easier. Make sure you wash your hands before you put your gloves on though. Gloves you can get most any department store anymore, pharmacies, any of that kind of thing. Auto parts stores carry, a lot of times they carry the heavier nitrile gloves if you're more into that. We'll show you the nitrile gloves later when we start pulling that hot pulled pork. This is a pork butt we've got. Actually, it's one I already had that I've repackaged. Pork butts will come either in single butts, just like this, out of the store. If you're buying from Sam's or Costco or Restaurant Depot or the bigger stores, you'll generally find them in 2-packs. 2 butts like this in one package about that long. Selection on your pork butts, really pretty simple. Check on the top side where the white fat is. You always want to look for good, solid, nice white fat on the top of them if you can find them. Probably one of the first things to look for. The other thing then, turn them over. Look on the bottom side. A nice pinkish, dark pink, reddish color. I know pork's supposed to be the other white meat, but it will turn more white as it cooks. Just a nice deep color in it. A real light colored pork probably isn't going to turn out the best, but sometimes you got to get what you got to get. Look for a nice firm pork butt, poke around on them a little bit. Basically what we're looking for is a firmer pork butt. The more fat content it has inside the butt, the firmer it's going to be. And when you get to looking through pork butts at the store, you can notice the difference on them. Another nice place to check is this little white spot right here. There's a fat seam that runs right in through here. That's one of my keys that I like to poke on, that little fat spot right there. Good fat is harder than the red meat. So if you kind of poke on that little fat spot right there, it should be fairly firm. That's kind of what you're looking for. This one's not the best pork butt I've ever had. It's not the worst one by far either. That's really about kind of the things you want to look for on them. If you're buying from the local grocery stores, local department stores like Walmart, any place like that, a lot of times you'll find them in single packs looking like this, but they are also probably an enhanced product, which means they've got a 10 to 12% solution already injected into them, and that's okay. It will help keep that product moister, so you get a better product off of the cooker when you're done. If you're buying from a place like Sam's Club, Restaurant Depot, Costco, any of those where you're getting them in the 2 packs, 2 butts in one package, those are what we call a fresh butt. They may have been frozen previously. That's okay, don't worry about it. But those are a non-injected, non-enhanced product. If you're going to inject other flavors into your pork butts, that's really the ones you want to go try to find. They both work well. They're both going to give you nice pulled pork at the end, so just wherever you can find them. Let's go ahead and open this one up. Pull that out of the package. There we go. Get some paper towels out. Another little food safety trick, use paper towels. We always do. Don't use cloth towels. These are disposable. You wipe up a spill, you throw them away. With a cloth towel, you can run the risk of spreading contaminants across your table, across your cutting board, to the kids, whatever else. So we just always use the paper towels. First thing I'm going to look for on this pork butt, I'm going to look over here on this side. I'm probably not going to do much to it. Another thing you can do with the paper towels, sometimes these pork butts get a little slippery on your cutting board with the moisture in them. Just set a paper towel underneath there and set that pork butt on top of it. They will not slide near as much. You can still move them, but a lot more stable for you. I may take this and trim a little bit of this fat right here. There we go. That's about all I'm going to do to it. Okay, kind of note this muscle right here. It's what we in the competition barbecue world call the money muscle. It's actually this muscle right here, and there's some more on the inside that we'll show you later, is actually the best part of the pork butt itself. If you'll notice, there's a lot of fat seams there. There's another fat seam right here. There's another fat seam that runs right there. There's another one right here. There's 7 different muscle groups in a pork butt. That's why the pork butts work so well for barbecue, because we're going to cook them to that point where we're breaking down all the collagen, all the fat deposits, a lot of the other stuff in this pork butt, which means we need to take them up to a very high temperature of about 200, 203 degrees. Again, we'll show you that later when we start pulling them off the cooker. But also because of all the fat that it has into it, it can stand very long times in the cooker, that low and slow. It can stand that higher temperature because it's got a lot of internal fat, and it will hold that moisture in if we cook it correctly to get it nice and soft to make good pulled pork out of it. Another spot we're going to check over here is, you see this little round bone right here. Right above that round bone, there is a blood vessel that runs in there. We're going to come in and trim that out a little bit, just right there. A lot of times there'll be a nice blood clot right there. I want my pulled pork tasting like pork, not like liver. So we're going to pull that, any blood clots or anything that might happen to be right there, we're just going to go in and trim those right out. just like we did right there. That's about as far as we're going to go with that one. Let's flip it over on the other side. And we'll do a little trimming here. Usually our pork butts will have a nice white fat layer all the way across the top of it, like this little strip, but will be all the way across the top. If it is, I will go ahead and trim that fat off. Don't worry, it's not going to hurt anything. There's plenty of fat left on the inside of that pork butt. We don't have to worry about it drying out. If it's got all that fat on it, go ahead and trim it off. You just don't need all that fat draining out in your cooker. Smoke and spices do not go through fat layers like that. Again, so we're going to trim that off to help keep our spices on and help get a little bit more smoke penetration inside into that pork butt. There. This one didn't have a lot of fat on it. This helps if you have a good sharp knife. If you don't have a good sharp knife, find somebody to sharpen them, or find a good knife sharpener and get your own sharpened up. Okay, that's about all the trimming we're going to do there on that one. Notice there right here, there's a layer of meat, and if you get underneath that, there's another layer of fat. If you can kind of see that. I like going down to just this layer of meat right here, and we'll show you a little bit later too, because that's good crunchy stuff. That's one of the better parts of the pork butt when it comes off the cooker. It's got all that seasoning on it, that good salty, sweet, porky bacon flavor when it gets done. So leave that piece on there even though there is some more fat underneath it. And that's about all I'm going to take off of this one right here on this side, because when we put it on the cooker, I'm going to put it on just like that. I want a little bit of fat left on here to help protect it on the grate, on the cooker. So when we put it back on, we'll put it on just like that. There we go. Just do a little little cleanup on it. Another thing to watch out for, depending on how close they trimmed them when they packaged them, there might be some cartilage fragments right in through here. If there is, you can just take your knife, go along and trim right underneath that cartilage fragments, just enough to get that cartilage out of the way. You don't want cartilage in your pulled pork. Pulled pork tastes good, but cartilage doesn't. And I think that's about all we're actually going to do with that one. We are ready to do some seasoning. We'll get us a foil pan. We're going to set that up right like that. I'm going to take one glove off so I don't get pork stuff all over my seasoning bottles. We're going to kind of season all sides and top. This is what I call the frickin' chicken rub. We actually made it to go on chicken a couple years ago, but also found out it worked pretty good on pork too. Then we're going to go with another layer of Kelly's pig dust. Doesn't have to be real heavy. Light, just about like that. Then we're going to flip that up on the other side and do the same thing. Just a light coat on both of them is going to be plenty. There we go. Pat that down just a little bit. Turn her one more time. Pat that down. Now remember this fat side that we trimmed that white fat cap off of? I'm actually not going to season that because that's what's going down on the grate. And it's probably any seasoning we put on there is probably going to burn off anyway. And that's also what's going in the bottom of our foil when we go to foil these. So the juice we put in will just wash any of that seasoning away anyway. So we're not even going to season that part. But we are going to season the meat side, just like that. Just a nice light coat on them, and another nice light coat there. There we go. That's going to give us some nice good flavor on the outside. It's going to make some nice tasty bark that's going to mix well with that smoke in our cooker. And we are ready to go on. Now you can do this a night ahead of time. Let them set for 12 hours. Let them set for a couple hours, or you can go on with them just like this. We can go direct on the cooker at this point right now and still have a very good product on them. I prefer to let them set for a little bit if I'm going to season them, a couple hours at least, and overnight doesn't hurt them. There's not enough salt content in there to pull enough moisture out that's going to bother anything. So we've just got a nice light coat of seasoning on there and ready to go in. Okay, we are outside now, getting ready to throw that pork butt that we've prepped and seasoned. Get it on the cooker. We've got our cooker started, lighted, and up to temp where we want it. It's all settled in. We know it's going to be right at about 250 degrees on our thermometer up here. Settled in there for about 15-20 minutes, so we know we're not going to get a bunch of temperature swings on it. After we put that pork butt in, so let's go ahead and get it stuck in there. Open that lid. One of the things with a pork butt, especially with the seasoning on it, and pork tends to stick to your cooker grates quite a little bit. So one of the tricks is a piece of foil. Lay that down on the grate, and then we'll come in and just drop that pork butt right down on top of that foil. Now when we get ready to pull that pork butt off to foil it, none of our pork sticking to the grate. Helps keep our pork butt much better condition, and also helps us to just keep our cooker clean, keep the grates a little bit cleaner and everything else. We're going to leave it in there now at 250 degrees for about 5 to 6 hours. We're shooting to get that pork butt to about 160 to 170 degrees internal temp, and we'll show you how we do that here in a little bit. And then we're going to pull them off and foil them, and we'll show you about that too. So let's go ahead, we can get this pork butt started cooking. Close the lid. The cooker will come back up to that 250 degrees, and it should run right there for about the next 5-6 hours until we're ready to foil it. We are back out here to our Louisiana wood pellet grills. That pork butt's been in here for about 5.5 hours at 250 degrees. It should be about 160 to 170 degrees internal temperature. I kind of go by that. I also kind of go by color, just what it looks like when we get ready to foil them. We're going to open the grill up, pull this off and go back inside, wrap it in foil, and then come back out and put it back on. So let's open her up and see what we got. Oh, there we go. Looking good, just about the right color, what I'm looking for. We're going to get our digital thermometer out. We're going to take a temperature right there. Yep, about 165 degrees. That's just what we're looking for. When we get ready to foil it, it may be a little stiff at that temperature yet, but that's okay. I know it's not ready to be done and ready to pull yet, but that's where we're going to make it ready. So we're going to pull that off of there. Nice color on it. That's just what we're looking for. So we'll close that back up. We'll take it inside and foil it up.
Do you want the award-winning flavor of the multi-award-winning 4 Legs Up barbecue in your kitchen without hiring the whole crew? Now you can purchase their full line of barbecue rubs and sauces to use during your next cookout. You're going to need a top-of-the-line grill to truly bring out the flavor. Thankfully, 4 Legs Up BBQ is the official distributor for Louisiana grills. Go to www.4legsupbbq.com to learn more about their full line of products and grilling classes, and make sure to tune in to PitMasters to see how 4 Legs Up BBQ cooks their award-winning dishes.
Okay, we have our pork butt trimmed. We've got the fat trimmed off of it. We've got it seasoned up nicely. We've got it on the cooker at 250 degrees. We're going to let it run there for about 5 to 6 hours at that 250 degrees until it gets to about 160 to 170 degrees internal temperature, or until it gets that nice color that we're looking for, nice mahogany color. And then at that point, that will be section 2 of our video, where we'll go ahead and pull that off and wrap that in foil with some juice on the inside of it to help keep that pork butt nice and moist, juicy, and help get it a little bit more tender for us. Then we'll go ahead and show you how to tell when it's done, and show you how to go ahead and pull that pork, season it up, and get it ready to serve your crowd that you got coming over for supper.